Rooting through bins is not normally a behavior you would expect to see from a successful scientist. But Andrew Pelling, a Canadian biohacker, breaks convention in more ways than one. The scientist bases his research on being inventive, and has recently published a paper explaining how apples can be used to grow human body parts. Mr. Pelling's work is focused around the idea of using trash to find treasure. He says, playing around is how he trains his mind to remain unconventional. "It's not some creepy thing," said Mr. Pelling, at a recent TED talk. "I'm usually just looking for old electronics, stuff I can take to my workshop and hack." The mad scientist, as TED calls him, runs his own lab at Ottawa University, the Pelling Laboratory for Physical Manipulation. One of the lab's latest projects involves creating human ears out of cells taken from apples. The ears cannot hear like those in a human, but are the same shape and contain human cells, or scaffolding. Pelling and his lab did not set about with the intention to grow ears from apples. The idea stemmed from a conversation they had about Audrey II, the giant monster fly trap from the musical Little Shop of Horrors. They wondered whether they could grow the monster in the lab. Lab member Daniel Mojalewski started working with leaves, removing their cells from the cellulose scaffold that gives plants their structure. But he had trouble when it came to stripping the leaves' waxy coating. When he spotted another lab member eating an apple one day, he decided to use apples instead. "We took a totally innocent Macintosh apple, removed all the apple cells and DNA, and then implanted human cells," Mr. Pelling said. "And what we're left with after removing all the apple cells is this cellulose scaffold." Mr. Pelling's wife carved apples into the shape of ears, then took them to the lab where the scientists treated them to turn the apple cells into human cells. The scaffolds can be implanted in the body, according to a recent paper Pelling and his colleagues published in the journal PLOS One. The significance of this project lies in how cheap apples are compared to other ways of building body part scaffolds. Commercial scaffolds can be really expensive and problematic because they're sourced from proprietary products, animals or cadavers, he said. "We used an apple and it cost pennies. We founded a mission-driven company, and we're developing kits to make it easier for anyone with a sink and a soldering iron to make these things at home." Mr. Pelling's company, Spiderwort, has developed machines to make these scaffolds, and has made the technology open source, with the instructions available online. The technology is not for sale yet, but pre-sale information can be found on the company website. Being able to grow organs from a patient's own stem cells would help the worldwide organ shortage. Scientists are well on their way to making specialized stem cells that could be seeded onto a scaffold and become livers, or hearts, or skin. But one challenge remains, which is the scaffolds themselves. Since traditional methods, which involve building them from animals, cadavers or proprietary materials, are complex and expensive. The lab is also looking at other produce, like asparagus, which could help repair spinal cord injuries. What I'm really curious about is if one day, it will be possible to repair, rebuild and augment our own bodies with stuff we make in the kitchen. Mr. Pelling said staying creative with science is difficult. "It takes a lot of work. I honestly believe that being unconventional and creative isn't something that just happens," he told Mail Online. "We set up conditions to either foster and grow that spirit or conditions that kill it. So, I surround myself with fascinating and energetic people, give myself and other permission to play, and constant ask myself if my plan, idea, decision etc. could be even more audacious. This may not come naturally for all people, but if you try it, after a while it becomes easier and a more likely way for you to operate. And the end product is an ability to always be thinking in a way that is different from most, which means you come up with a lot of new and unusual ideas. Most of them fail though. But you have to at least try them. Every now and then some will work out and they are usually gold."